All right. So my name is Janice. I'm a student at Roseman, class of 2021. Thank you, pre-dentals, for waiting for the last 12 minutes for us to figure this out. So we are going to be discussing the application process today. And let's see, let me first introduce everyone that we have here. We have students from Roseman and we have students from University of Washington. So first we have Angelo. He's our Roseman's Vendor Relations Co-Chair. We have Andrew. He's the District 10 Wellness Co-Chair. We have Courtney, who's the class of 2022 president, Kyler, who's the pre-dental committee member, and Priscilla. She is currently the ASDA, Roseman as the vice president and pre-dental chair. And then we have Portia, who's the chapter president at University of Washington. So panelists, please go ahead and do a small introduction about yourself. Tell us where you guys went for undergrad, your major, and some fun facts about you guys.
All right, so Angelo first, right? So my name is Angelo. I am originally from California. I went to undergrad at Pacific Union College at Napa. My major was biology, just like everyone else, I'm sure. And fun fact about me, let's see, I haven't been on Instagram for a month. That's a fun fact.
What's your handle?
All right, who's next?
Okay, I can go. My name's Kyler, and I went to undergrad at Linfield College in Oregon, and I studied biology and chemistry there. And then a fun fact, I don't know. I made a TikTok over quarantine, so there's that.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Andrew. I am a D2 at Roseman University, class of 2022. I completed my undergrad at Brigham Young University, and my major was nutritional science. A quick fun fact about me is one of the hobbies I have is collecting and assembling Star Wars Legos. So that's been a fun project to have during these uncertain times.
Great, I can go next. So my name's Courtney, and I went to school in Boston. And at Wellesley College, I was a neuroscience major. And a fun fact about me is I grew up half of my life in Alabama.
I'll go next. Hey everyone, my name is Priscilla. I'm from Florida, born and raised, University of Florida for undergrad, go Gators. And my major was food science and human nutrition. And I am a D1 right now at Roseman University. Oh, wait, fun fact, right? Sorry, okay, fun fact. I've had reindeer meat and kangaroo meat before. It's super embarrassing, but I've had it and they were all very good, so.
Hi everyone, my name is Portia. For undergrad, I went to University of Washington. Oh, I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah. But yeah, I went to University of Washington for my undergrad. And then I did a master's in Denver, and then I moved back to Seattle for more school at UW. Fun fact, I summited a couple of volcanoes before. I don't know, nothing fun. I'm learning the guitar, that's better.
Okay, all right. So first thing that we're going to discuss today is pre-dental ASDA and the benefits of pre-dental ASDA. If you guys don't know, it is the American Student Dental Association. Priscilla, could you tell us what the benefits of pre-dental ASDA is?
Yeah, sure. So I currently sit on the Council of Membership right now for National ASDA. And so a little bit about the benefits of pre-dental ASDA. There's actually a lot of benefits, and I'll go over a few of them. The first one being is once you register to become a pre-dental ASDA member, just a national member, you get a printed copy of ASDA's Guide to Dental Schools Handbook. And so this resource is really important when you're applying for dental schools because it basically has every dental school in the US printed, just a lot of facts about them, There's like a little blurb from some students, and then the information about tuition, undergraduate requirements, application requirements, statistics, and it also includes a pre-dental timeline and also interview tips. Basically, it's a bound book. I wish I had it with me right now, but I don't. But it's a printed copy that you'll get in the mail, and it's a great resource for those who are looking into applying to dental school. Well, I'm assuming that's everyone, but applying to dental school. And then every quarter you'll receive an e-newsletter, and it's called the Polished for Dental. And this resource is really important because it just keeps you up to date with the information about dentistry. And these are little tidbits that you can use in your interview. There's going to be little blurbs from dental students. So you can find out about the school's culture by reading these e-newsletters. And then the most important benefit that I found, are leadership opportunities. So with National ASDA, I was really lucky. I was on the pre-dental advisory committee when I was an undergrad. And basically when you apply to be not really apply, but register to be a National ASDA pre-dental member, you have the opportunity to basically you can apply to be on the pre-dental advisory committee, and that's a committee of 5 pre-dentals, and you represent all pre-dentals in the US. And it's a great leadership opportunity, something that you can put in your application when you apply to dental school. And so I had the privilege of doing that when I was an undergrad. And then there's also the position of a pre-dental consultant. And this looks really great for your dental school application because it shows leadership. And then also the opportunity to get involved in your district. So I'm from Florida, and so we're in District 5. Well, I was in District 5. And so they had a pre-dental cabinet at the time. And so as a pre-dental, get involved, find out from any local dental school near you whether or not there's a pre-dental cabinet that you can apply for, and apply. These are great ways for you to get involved and then network with dental students. And so great ways to get involved, meet student mentors, and then the last benefit really is being able to attend the National Leadership Conference. That happens every fall. It's a great conference to learn more about dentistry, leadership, management, and you get to find a lot of dental students that you can meet your favorite, your Instagram dental YouTuber or whatever. You can meet them at these national conferences, get to know them. And these are going to be people that will look over your personal statement, your application when you're applying. So networking in dentistry is really important. So start now and become a national free dental member.
Janice, you're muted.
Okay, so thank you, Priscilla. We're gonna start with a list of frequently asked questions about the AADSAS application and the process itself. So we'll go through that, and then afterwards we'll be taking the questions that you guys put into the Q&A, okay? So the first question that we have is, can I start compiling information before the application opens to prepare for it? Andrew, could you go ahead and answer that question?
Yeah, sure. My response to that is absolutely. So I did not do that when I went through the application process, and it took me forever to get my application in because I was really unfamiliar with the website at first. So I strongly recommend, if you have the opportunity to, the year before you apply for dental school, create an account, so that way you can at least log in and look to see what the application site looks like, so you know how to navigate it, where to put in specific information. So that way it can help prepare you. So when you're compiling your personal statement and your experiences, you know exactly where to put them in on the website. So yeah, definitely start working on your information as soon as possible.
And then under in AADSAS, there's a lot of things that we can list, including manually entering our grades. There's also a section where we can talk about volunteering, shadowing, and our other experiences. What do you put in the descriptions for each entry? Priscilla, go ahead and tell us more about them.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are about 6 categories that you can put activities under. And so my advice would be just to list out all of your activities and see which category they go under. volunteering, dental experience, academic enrichment. So your question, Janice, was in regards to what do I write in the description boxes, right? Each description box for every activity basically allows you to write 600 characters. And in those 600 characters, it goes up really fast. It's only a few sentences. So spend that time writing not so much about what you did, but more about what you learned from that experience. Because a lot of times the admissions committee know what shadowing means, or they know what volunteering at a dental clinic means. But what varies from student to student is what you learned, right? And so, for example, I volunteered at Special Olympics of Tampa Bay, Florida. And so that was actually not related to dentistry at all, but I was very passionate about it. And so through that experience, I actually taught a lot of nutrition to patients with special needs. And so in that time, I learned that this is going to be a specific patient population that I will be treating as a future dentist. So I was able to tie in something that was non-dentistry related, like working with people with special needs. And I was able to tie that into dentistry in my description box. So basically I talked about caring for patients with special needs, and they would need increased attention, adaptation, and accommodative measures beyond routine treatment. So I was able to connect something that was non-dentistry related to dentistry. And you don't have to connect everything. There's no need to, but that's just something that I tried to do if I could. And then just another tip to share, I actually had an amazing academic advisor who not only edited my personal statement, but she also edited each and every one of my descriptions. So if that's something that you want, ask your academic advisor whether or not they'd be willing to look over every description for every activity. So I never knew that I could do that, but that was what my academic advisor offered me. And it really helped because I got her opinion on what to write, what to say, and she really helped me word things really well in that 600 characters before submitting my application.
Thank you, Priscilla. A big question that we always have when we apply is also, should we be applying to the schools that we qualify for, or if we should apply for schools that are quote unquote our reach schools? Kyler, could you tell us more about that and your perspective?
Yeah, so I think short answer, I would definitely recommend applying to your reach schools. It can be, kind of scary and intimidating because there's lots of applicants and, everyone is very qualified going into it. But I think for everyone to remember that the application process is, the committees look at a lot of different aspects of each candidate. And so even if you feel like, oh, my GPA is not as high as I wanted it to be, or I wasn't as involved, or I don't have a ton of experience with dentistry or whatever you're maybe feeling what you're feeling is weak in your application, just remember that they're looking at you as a whole applicant. And so while, you might be feeling deficient in one area, there's other areas that, you'll shine through and you'll show that you were committed to research or some campus group. And then that is something that they'll take into consideration. And I think ultimately remembering that, the worst thing that can happen is that, you won't get an interview, and then that allows you to focus on other schools that you can, put your time and interest into getting accepted to. And then the best case is that, you get an interview and you get accepted to your reach school that you really want to go to, but, that ultimately can't happen if you don't apply. And so I think that ultimately just, if you're on the fence about applying to a school and you're able to, afford the extra application, then I would recommend applying for it and just, see what happens and take a chance.
Anyone else have input for that?
I was going to say, a lot of times I know it can be discouraging because you look online and you look at averages and you say, hey, there's this benchmark. Do I reach it? Am I above it? Am I at it? If you're below it, it's okay. That's an average. They accept people in a huge range. So don't let those numbers discourage you at all. Because again, that's one dimension of a multi-dimensional application. So just keep that in mind. Don't take a chance, like Kyler said.
Okay. The next question that we have is, What factors outside of dentistry should I consider when picking schools to apply to? Andrew, do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, I do. So one of the things I stress heavily is know what the school's emphasis is, know what the school's culture is. Um, because if you choose to accept to go to a dental school, that's anywhere from a 3 to 5 year commitment. So if you get there and all of a sudden you don't like the culture of the school, you're stuck there for a pretty long time. And also know where know where in the United States or wherever you're applying for dental school is, if that's somewhere you're willing to live. When I was applying for dental schools, I sat down with my wife and I would look up at a school and I go through the facts to see if I was a good candidate, and she would Google the location to see if it was a place that she could see us living together. And we were looking at a school at Cleveland, Ohio, and when she Googled it, the first image that popped up was this vehicle that was completely iced over with freezing rain. And so my wife said, absolutely not. So, just small things to consider. But just to answer the question more specifically, realms outside dentistry, if you can, talk to alumni, talk to current students, and get their feel of what the culture is like at the school, because that will be a big impact on your wellness while you're there.
And to add to that, I feel like in order for you to find out more about the school, you can definitely reach out to the program and ask them like, oh, hey, you know, can you connect me with a current dental student? And especially with social media platforms nowadays, we always see people on Instagram or YouTube and they will make videos. Like definitely send them a message. Like me, myself, have personally like answered a lot of questions through my DM and everything on Instagram. So definitely reach out just to get a better insight. Let's see. So next question is, how do I find out more specific information from each school that you want to apply to? For this one, I recommend going to adia.org/official guide. They have accurate information from each school's admissions website. And then you can also, again, reach out to them after checking out their website.
I wanted to add to that too really quickly. When you're applying for dental schools on AADSAS, when you select certain schools, it gets to that bottom part where you get to that school-specific school, they also list out what are the requirements. And some schools will say you need a minimum GPA, or some schools will say, hey, we have an additional questions for you to answer. So just make sure you're looking on, like Janice said, the school's website for admissions information. Call them if you have any questions or email them. And then also on the AADSAS application itself, it's pretty up to date.
Yeah, and adding to that, like ADIA will tell you what the average GPA is. It doesn't hurt to call the school and ask, because there are definitely times where they'll tell you like, okay, you know, the demographics for the incoming class this past year was, let's say, a 3.5, right? And you're maybe around like a 3.3, 3.4. Does that mean that you don't apply? The answer is no. You should definitely call the school and ask them, well, what's the lowest that you've taken, right? Because the 3.5 is really an average. Therefore, there are people who have applied that are above the 3.5 and below the 3.5. So definitely call the school. Like, and some schools would give you like a hard no. Okay, well, the lowest that we'll take is like a 3.3, or lowest that we'll take is a 3.0. And you will find out not from the website, because they're not going to list that, but if you talk to admissions. Kyler, could you tell us how many schools is the ideal amount of schools to apply to?
Yeah, so I think that I think it's personal, kind of depends on what, you know, everyone's going to apply to a different number. Personally, I applied to about 8 or 10 schools. And as you know, you go through the application process, it's, you know, it's time consuming and it costs money and can be pretty expensive. And like I said, I don't think there's a magic number of schools that will, you know, that everyone should apply to guarantee they're accepted somewhere. You know, obviously the more that you apply to, the better chances you have of getting in somewhere. But I think, kind of like we were talking about before, it's important to ensure that you're applying to schools that you're interested in going to, that you could see yourself attending for, you know, the duration of dental school, because like was previously mentioned, you know, it's a long time and it's a big commitment. And I think that making sure that you've done, you know, really good research and talked to students over social media or different platforms to make sure that you would do well and be excited about attending that school is really important, and sort of using that as a big factor in deciding, you know, which schools you want to apply to and how many that may be. And on the other side of that, I mean, I know dental students who have applied to, you know, like, you know, 15, 20 plus dental schools, and that was that worked for them and they were able to find success that way. So again, it's not really a one size fits all. But I think the most important thing that I would recommend is making sure that don't focus on maybe the number, but making sure that they're schools that you're excited about and that you would, you know, want to go to and would see yourself succeeding at, and you know, doing well and enjoying your time there. So.
And sorry, I would also like to emphasize, like, definitely apply to schools that you can see yourself going into. Like, a personal experience, I applied to a lot of schools. I also applied to LSU because I was like, oh wow, New Orleans, that would be awesome. And then I spent the money for the primary application, and then when they sent me the secondaries, and they're like, oh, send us another $200 check, and I was like, nope, I don't even want to go to that school anyways. So like, really keep that in mind, because for secondaries, if you do get them, that's additional money. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's
and,
true.
And I'd also like to add, so I really would discourage people from blindly sending out applications. So if you're like, oh, hey, you know what? Ohio does sound cool. Like, even if you are interested, you need to look at the demographics of who they accept. A lot of schools, they have these online as well. Say you're not from Ohio. Say they only accept like 3% out of state. That's something you need to consider when you're sending out your applications, because it's great that you're interested in this school, but if the likelihood of them accepting an out-of-state student is low, it might not be worth the money. So just a lot of the school websites publish those statistics. So I would certainly look at them before you apply.
So with the application, there has been a question, when's the best time to apply? There are applicants who are applying like right when it opens versus like, you know, a month in or 2 months in. Like, when is the best time to apply? Courtney, go ahead and tell us more.
Oh, yes. So the application will open in May. I believe it's May 12th. If that's correct. And then that's when it actually opens, but you can't submit anything yet. And then you can actually submit come June. So I would certainly take a look when that application opens, so you can start on your Word document, start crafting what you want to say and get sort of like a feel of what they're going to be asking for, what information you're going to need to collect. And then you can also start inputting your grades at that time and saving them on the portal. So that's I would definitely look in May when it opens. And in terms of submission, I personally err on the side of being careful. I want to optimize my chances. So I ended up submitting, I think 2 weeks after it initially, I was able to submit. So it was in mid-June I submitted. And obviously I would encourage everyone to submit as soon as they can, as soon as they have the materials ready. But that being said, if your personal statement isn't up to par, don't just go ahead and submit it. Make sure all your essays and everything are input, they're accurate, they're up to the standards you want prior to submitting. So again, I say earlier the better, but I'm sure other people would have different takes, because obviously everyone in dental school submitted theirs at different times, so you could still get in if you submit later.
Priscilla, do you have anything to add to that?
Just to add on to that, so every school has a specific deadline. Some are in September, some are in October. So make sure you have a spreadsheet of all the schools that you want to apply to and their specific deadlines. And that's for the primary application. And a lot of times they'll also include the deadline for the secondary as well. But yeah, like what Courtney said, quality is very important. So once you submit your first school's application, you can't go back and edit your personal statement. You can add more activities during the academic update period, but you just can't edit your personal statement. So that's very important for you to have it perfect when you do submit. And so, of course, everyone's going to tell you to submit as early as possible. You're going to get the best chances for interviews as early as possible. So I had some friends who submitted as early as June, and they heard back from schools for an interview invite in July. But obviously, if you apply in October, the chances of a pre-December interview are going to be slim because you're trying to compete against thousands of other applicants. So one tip that I have is, so if you're still working on your list of schools to apply to, just apply to the ones that you really want to first. So I actually applied to more than 10 schools, but I had a top 10 list that I knew I wanted to apply to. So I made sure that my schools in the top 10, I submitted my application. I submitted them, I think at the end of June, and that was still okay. And then gradually, as the time progresses, you can add more schools if you think, hey, I can see myself at Kentucky, or hey, I see myself at UNE, New England, or something like that. You can add on schools afterwards, and that's perfectly okay. You just have to do a little bit more work for the application process, but you can add more schools later. So personally for me, I submitted my my top 10 at the end of June, and then I submitted some in July. And then I also want to say that it's okay to apply in August as well. I did submit some schools applications in August, and I still was able to get pre-December interviews. So it's okay, but I would just say don't go past August because yeah, you're once again competing against a lot of schools. A lot of students.
And I would like to add that I know a common question is, hey, what if I don't have all my prereqs done, or I don't have my DAT score? That's not a concern. On the application, you can say, hey, I'm taking this this course right now, and then you submit your grade later, or similarly with the DAT, if you want to retake it or if you haven't taken it yet, you can indicate that on your application and it's not a problem. You'll submit those later. So that shouldn't discourage you from submitting your application. But do know that your application will not be complete until they receive those grades or scores.
And to add to that, something like with admissions, there's a ton of applicants that they're looking at every year, and there's going to be a lot of applicants where they don't have the DAT scores or they're waiting to retake. Something that you should do is you should actually email admissions in addition to submitting your application and be like, hey, I put in my application that I'm still waiting to retake it, or I'm going to be taking it at a certain time. You should send them an actual email so that they know and they've seen your email and you're not just one applicant in the pile.
Sorry, one more thing to add on to that. Send in your application, even if you're planning on taking your DAT, let's say mid-July, send in your application early because it takes a few weeks for the whole AADSAS portal to process your application and to send it to schools. So if you're kind of on the fence saying like, oh, I haven't taken my DAT yet, let me hold on to my AADSAS. No, send in your AADSAS application first and then continue studying for your DAT. And then, like Janice said, let the schools know that you'll be taking it later.
Courtney, could you tell us like how much it would cost to send out the application?
Yep. So the base fee when you initially submit is going to be $251. And then so that's for your first dental school. And then every additional school, you're going to pay $108. So keep that into consideration when you're budgeting how many schools you want to apply to and you can apply to. And then don't forget that some schools, some will send it to you later. But don't forget supplementals often cost a fee as well. I don't know if $590 is based off my memory, but oh, am I cutting out or am I okay?
You're okay right now.
Oh, sorry. Okay. What did you get the initial fees, at least the $251, and then for subsequent schools it's going to be $108? And then don't forget there's going to be supplemental fees as well if you get a supplemental application. And then also a great resource is that there is fee assistance, and there is a link for that on the ADA page. So if you can qualify for financial assistance if you can't afford these application fees.
Okay, let's see. So here's a really common question as well. How do we know if we are considered a competitive applicant? Angela, what is your opinion on that?
Just believe in yourself. I mean, here's the thing. Look, obviously you gotta have good DET scores. You gotta have high GPA. I mean, that's the standard, right? But I think to become really competitive, you gotta look at your application, like, fill in the gaps. I think everyone kind of mentioned it earlier. If you haven't done research, do something like that. If you lack something in community service, do that. But I mean, basically, things that you think dental students aren't doing, maybe do that. From my personal experience, everyone becomes a dental assistant. Everyone worked in a dental office, but I decided to work for Invisalign. I learned how 3D printing worked. I was able to help in publishing books in there. I work with a whole bunch of orthodontists because I kind of want to be an orthodontist, but we'll see how this year goes in the following. But anyways, just basically look at those, and then yeah, I mean, those are things that you could make yourself become competitive. Do you guys have any other addition to that?
Well, Angela, let's further this question. Like, what should undergrad students be doing to prepare for matriculation into dental school right after graduation?
Okay. I mean, first of all, I think being in undergrad, you have so many opportunities, like being in a leadership roles, like joining clubs. Like, I think a lot of dental schools, like you're gonna be running your own practice. You're gonna be your own, the boss, and you got to be able to work with teams and things like that. So having a leadership role would be great. Another thing would be doing a lot of volunteer work. A lot of dental schools that look for community service, they would look at, how many hours you've done, and not necessarily that, like, how do you feel about it? Like, what made you, like, I think part of the reason why I joined dentistry was because I started doing mission trips. I've done 4 dental mission trips, Haiti, Philippines, every other year. And that kind of helped me, I think, realize why I wanted to do dentistry. But then on top of that, like, how helping in other countries look like. Maybe you could do that in the community out here. So that's something you could do also. And then I think networking is also a great thing. I mean, there's so many different things that you can reach out to. There's a social here, social there, going to ASDA, NLC, they have pre-dentals going to that event, and you get to, meet with a whole bunch of dental students or dental companies and just talk to them. I think another thing would be, during undergrad, I think it's also good to know your study habits, like what works, what doesn't work. Because by the time you hit dental school, you gotta know what you're doing. There's no one's gonna baby you, no one's gonna hold your hand. You just have to know how to do it. You gotta understand, you gotta also know what things you like to do just to keep your health and wellness, up to par during stressful times. Like, I don't know, if you like knitting, go for it. What else? I think I've pretty much covered majority of it. You guys have anything to add?
Courtney, we have a lot of non-traditional applicants in our attendee list today. What should they do during a gap year? Oh no, I think she's frozen. Oh.
Hello?
Yep.
Can anyone hear me?
Yep.
Oh my gosh, I am so sorry, guys. Apparently I have horrible internet around here. Okay, yeah. So during the gap year, bottom line, there's not a wrong answer. So first I'd say, what do you want to do? What interests you? Is it research? Is it assisting? Is it teaching? So I'd say first go for, if you have the ability to do so financially, just do what interests you. Secondly, you can do something like other people said that would enhance your application. So say you have a deficiency in one area, say a school that you really want to go have a research experience. So try to make up for those deficiencies in the application. A lot of people don't have the financial ability to just do whatever they want. post graduation, and that's not a problem. If you can, like, if get as a bartender or something like that, can people hear me, or is it?
You're pausing here and there. Yeah, I think Courtney mentioned some really good points. Definitely, you have to bring in, your financials in there and see if you can do it. There's definitely a lot of opportunities out there that, I didn't do mission trips because I thought it was super expensive to be able to do that. But for the people who did, they definitely had a really good experience. So like for me, I was actually a dental hygienist prior to that. So I purely just worked, and I volunteered as a dental hygienist at the Berkeley Free Clinic and everything whenever I had time. So definitely, like, whatever that you do, I think it's very important to factor in that you're enjoying it and you're learning something from it. And it's giving you an experience where you can talk about it and how it affects you in dentistry, and how far it's like, what do you learn from it, and what you can do about it as a dental student. So the next question that we have is, when should we consider retaking classes to boost our stats up?
Okay, I can answer that. Let's see. So obviously most dental schools, majority of people know that if you have less than a C, or if it's a C, you might as well retake it, because I mean, number one, if you retake that class and you get an A, your science GPA goes up. I mean, those are the ones I really wanted, like what I did. When I graduated, truthfully, I had a really low GPA, but I decided to, you know what, I need to take some more classes. So I went to post-bac. I actually came from Cal State East Bay in Hayward, PHAP program, and that is like probably, I have a bunch of classmates that went to that, and then they all got into like dental school, medical school. But anyways, when I came in with a low GPA, I retook all the courses I took, and then I even took extra classes that my college didn't offer, and then that I got into dental school because of it. I feel like, because for example, you got to look at the schools that you apply to. I think at Roseman, they look at the last 30 credits or 50. I think it's 30. So if they base your grades, if you do a master's program or a post-bac program, the last 30 units that you've taken, that's what they're going to look at. And I mean, I got A's majority of the time. So, but Portia, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I completely agree with Angelo to retake classes, but let's say you don't have that option and you get a couple of C's. I know I did in undergrad. If you're a science major, I think a really good way is to make sure that for your higher science classes to do really well in them, so schools can see improvement, because schools really like to see improvement. I know a couple of my classmates, they didn't do so hot in OChem. Honestly, I'm pretty sure a lot of my classmates failed OChem, but then in their DAT section, they did. Courtney didn't, I guess, but they did really well in their DAT OChem section. So that kind of showed improvement. Like, I'm actually pretty decent at OChem and I can do well again. Additionally, a lot of schools in their supplements like ask you if you didn't do so well in a class, why, and you can explain. And schools know that we're not all perfect. So I think it's fine if you get a couple of C's. I think you should still apply, but if you can retake it, and if not, just continuing to show improvement is good. But yeah.
So the next question that we have is, what do we do if we don't get in the first cycle? And what are the benefits of doing a master's program or a post-bac program?
I'll take that question. So that is actually very personal to me. I had to apply 2 times. So the first time I applied, I applied. And then the second time I applied, I reached out to several of the schools that I was highly interested in, and I asked the admissions office what I scheduled an appointment. You can do that via phone or email. I always thought that phone was more personal if I couldn't travel there myself, but I scheduled an advising appointment. Usually this happens most of the time, February, March, and April. They'll be able to schedule an advising appointment with you and just to see what is lacking in your application. And you can just ask them, how can you improve your application? So this tactic really puts your name out there, number one. And number two, it shows the school that you're still very interested in their program. And then number three, it also shows the school that you'll do whatever it takes to get in the next cycle, basically. And so, for example, there's one specific school, very interesting. So I had called and I had asked them, how can I improve my application? And they told me that I was lacking in volunteer hours. And so that was really shocking to me because I was confident that I had enough volunteer hours. I had well over 300. And so for them to tell me that, I was like, what's going on? And so basically they told me that I had volunteered at the student dental clinics at my undergrad university, University of Florida. And so that experience, rather than putting it under the volunteer section of my AADSAS application, I put it under dental experience. And so schools are able to see how many hours you have in each category. So I thought that was very interesting. And so basically the next year, I hope this makes sense. Basically the next year when I applied, I made sure that my dental student clinic volunteer hours went under volunteering rather than dental experience. And as I had mentioned earlier, you kind of have to write out all your activities and see where they best fit, whether it's dental experience, research, volunteering. I had to kind of shuffle around my activities and see where they would fit. And so, yeah, basically just talk to each school, find out what you can improve your application on, and then go from there when you're applying the second year. And then your next question, Janice, about what are the benefits of doing a master's program or a postdoc program? So I actually went into a one-year master's program right after undergrad. I went straight in. And it was basically a core science master's program. It was a master's in medical sciences. And so when I was doing research on which program to go to, I talked to a lot of dental school admissions offices, and they basically told me the best master's to do it in is in a core science, because you're able to continue your education in sciences and then just prove to the schools that you can excel in it. And so obviously a lot of schools are going to tell you that they want a master's program with a research position or a thesis. So actually the program that I did not include a thesis, and it did not include a research program. But do your research out there and see what kind of master's programs are best fitting to you. Some of my classmates did programs with research in it, and they were able to have a thesis. And that's also a bonus that you can add to your application once you finish that program. And then also something to consider when you're doing a master's program, it also allows you to have more opportunities to ask for a great letter of recommendation. So I got lucky. My program was actually 31 students. So I knew the professors very well, to the point where they're able to write me very strong letters of recommendation. So that really helped going into a master's program. And then also just for your opportunity to strengthen your science GPA. I know there's a few out there with those struggling science GPAs. That was me personally. So I knew that I had to do a master's in the sciences just to prove to dental schools that I could do it and I could excel in graduate courses. And so, yeah.
And to add on to that, definitely so for me personally, I did a 1-year master's program in New Jersey, and it's definitely worthwhile I actually didn't have a gap year in terms of applying. Like there are a lot of non-traditional applicants where they apply and then they wait after their master's program and then they apply. I actually didn't do that because I already had all of my grades and DAT scores. So some of my advisors like, oh, you should take all the classes and complete your master's program first before you apply. I chose not to do that because I already had everything ready. So if I get in, I get in. And if I don't, then, I would have had access to a trial run on how the secondary questions would be like and everything. Luckily, like I got in during that year and I just started right after I finished my master's program. But something like if you choose to do this path, yes, it is riskier, but what you can do is you email every single school every semester or quarter your grades to keep them updated and show that you're capable of getting good grades in grad school, and you're showing them that you're still interested. So that's something that you would do. And then let's see. So we're gonna take Q&A questions now. One of the first Q&A questions that we have, it's impacting everyone. It's the COVID-19. So I know you guys have concerns about the DAT pushing with the testing date being pushed back, right? So let's ask our panelists like how it's going to impact you on your application, since you guys either need to retake or haven't taken the DAT yet. Anyone have input on that?
A lot of the stuff is out of our control, honestly. So my first recommendation is try to get your DAT scheduled as soon as possible. In some cases, this is not going to work for everyone because of just the nature of COVID-19 and the self-quarantines and prometric centers only allowing so many students. So there's that. If it does turn out where you have to take your DAT later in the year, let's say like September, October timeframe, it never hurts to send your application, but just understand that because it's so late in the application cycle, the chances of being evaluated they kind of drop over time. So a lot of it is kind of play by ear, but also the big thing is just contact the school. Let them know your intentions, let them know what's the situation, because dental schools are all in the same situation. We haven't been able to be in class for the past month and a half, but they've been very accommodating to us in working with us to help ensure that we're learning. We're still trying to stay up to date on our skills. So if you're in that situation where your DAT has been pushed back or COVID-19 has really messed with your life, just contact the school and keep them updated on what's going on.
I'll also add to that, I think in the wake of this unprecedented time, some schools are actually delaying the deadlines of things. So I think a lot of people are being very understanding right now. Not much can be done at this. And so just like Andrew said, just email the school and then also check online because a lot of the dates are being pushed back to accommodate everyone.
So now that everyone's in quarantine, what are some good idea of things to do while we're in quarantine? Since most of the people that are applying, they can't do any shadowing or anything like that.
I know one thing that's happening in Seattle that a lot of people are doing is tutoring. So I feel like that's a way you can volunteer your hours and keep up to date on your knowledge, because I know I forgot a lot of like rudimentary math and science. So it's a way to honestly, like, tutoring a high school student can help you prepare for your one DAT and two look good if you do it for volunteer hours. So I know a lot of people who are doing Zoom tutoring. So I think that could be a great opportunity for everyone.
Got one. So this is what we're actually doing. Dental companies have been bringing out a whole bunch of webinars about anything about dentistry, restorative dentistry, different types of specialties, things like that. If I were you, I would go to a company or ask them, like, can I, shadow this webinar? I'm going to be a dental student soon, and just get to know them. So that's something that you could do.
Also, one more thing, something I did as an undergrad, Coursera, it's this website with a bunch of online courses. UPenn actually has an introduction to dentistry course. I forgot how many weeks it is, but that's something that I was able to put in my application under dental. I think it's academic enrichment. That's one of the categories in AADSAS. It's a free course. You just have to start whenever they have certain dates open. Look that up. The website is Coursera. UPenn introduction to dentistry, something like that. It's a free course, so you guys can continue learning about dentistry and add that onto your application as well.
If you're looking for activity, if you're bored out of your mind, sorry, one last one. Find small hobbies to work on your manual dexterity. That's something that they ask about on the AADSAS application, is what activities do you to work on your manual dexterity. So look for hobbies or things that you can do to help increase that.
I just had to share because it was here, but I picked up cross stitching and I made a little too. But that's
She's
it.
so good. She's
And they
so
might
good.
ask you that during your interview as well. So yeah, hand skills.
Yeah, definitely like get creative. I know a lot of people my year, they were like, oh yeah, I signed up for a ceramics class just to show that I have manual dexterity. Don't limit yourself to dexterity. Like I think it's a cool hobby. It just wasn't for me. So definitely like look for something like it could have been painting. It could have been like what Andrew does, Lego building, you know, it could have been just anything. Add in some like tweezers, you know, like you Lego build with tweezers, right? I mean, it's get creative. You can talk about it in your interview. Okay, so we have the next question, which was how do we fill out the application if the school switched from quarter to semester form and it's in the middle of the year in their while they're in school? So how do we fill that out? Anyone have insight on that?
Yeah, you gotta just email admissions. They'll tell you.
No, and definitely contact the AADSAS. There's definitely been students who have had to like encounter that before.
Yeah, I want to add on that. Do not hesitate to call them. They're very responsive and helpful. I forget what I had trouble on, but I had trouble on a few things. But I gave them a call and they answered right away and they were super helpful. So don't hesitate.
But expect long wait times during this time. And then someone asked, if I am reapplying this cycle, can I reuse my activities descriptions from last year?
I think you got it. You should change things up a little bit. I mean, you know, it's like can't show the same thing. I mean, you could put it, but like reword things. I don't know.
I added more activities the second cycle that I applied because even during your interview, they're going to ask you what you did during your gap year if you have a gap year in between cycle 1, cycle 2. So make sure that you're not being a couch potato, make sure you're being productive, and make sure you have activities. Because if you have the same application 1 year and then you turn in the same application the next year, what are the chances of getting in? You know what I mean? So make sure you are finding ways to improve your application, whether that's changing your personal statement and hopefully adding more activities to that, and then or increasing your DAT score.
Someone asked, what are the pros and cons to a gap year? Personally, I don't think there's a pro and con to being gap year. It's actually, schools really look at what's unique to you. So there is no right path. Like, yes, it's a smooth path for people who get in right away, right after college and everything. But at the same time, if you don't and you take that gap year and you maximize what you can do, it's not a bad thing at all because it gives you a different advantage as well. Like if you use that year to do a mission trip and people who didn't have time because they started school right away, I mean, you can use that as an experience while you're a dental student. So definitely there's no pros and cons to specific pros and cons to doing a gap year or not.
Yeah, and I wanted to add on to that. I know a lot of people get concerned about what they should do, like what's right or not. If do anything and you can spin it in any which way. Like people in our class did wildly different things, none of which had to do with dentistry. And you're gonna learn something from every experience. So if you're able to portray that in your application, that's all you need.
I agree with that. If you want to travel the world, then go for it. But let me add something real quick. I took a 4-year gap year. I mean, that's 4 gap years. I worked, I got some experience, you know, I learned a lot, but starting dental school again, getting to that study mode, man, it's taking me a little bit longer than others to just, you know, get back into the groove, studying multiple things at the same time. I mean, you know, first couple of months, I mean, probably till now, I still feel like I'm not there yet, but you know, you got to adjust, you got to get back in the groove. But I think that's the con of it's taking too long, you know. Yeah.
I actually didn't plan on taking a gap year. I graduated undergrad in 2016 and started dental school in 2019. So that's a gap year of 3 years. But right after undergrad, I went straight into master's because I kind of self-assessed that I wasn't a strong enough applicant. I had to make that tough decision. Do I apply and spend money applying and just go on it on a whim? Or do I just wait until I'm a competitive applicant like we talked about earlier? So I actually didn't apply for dental school until after my master's program, where I felt that I was the most competitive at that time. So really, I didn't plan for gap years, but it just kind of happened that way. So make the best decision for yourself, whether or not you think you're a competitive applicant, because it is a very expensive process and you don't want to just be tossing out money out there.
Do dental schools look at shadowing differently from actual work experience in the dental field? For example, a dental assistant.
I mean, again, depends how you spin it and how you put it in under AADSAS. The AADSAS application asks if that experience was a volunteer experience or a paid experience. So just be transparent. And when you're reporting some shadowing hours, and let them know it's like, yes, this was as an assistant. Because I mean, I don't know, personally, I view assisting as being a little bit more effective, because with shadowing, you're kind of in a corner of a room. You can't be there over the patient. You're not exactly able to see what the dentist is doing. But whereas you're an assistant, you can get that more up close view. So again, some schools may view it differently. Again, you just need to do some research on the specific school, but it's kind of up to you on how you want to present it.
And as what Andrew was saying, I was an assistant for 2 years, but my shadowing hours, I'm pretty sure I didn't have that much time. But I just say, as Andrew was saying, be very transparent with your application, and make sure that you're saying if you're shadowing, those are your shadowing hours. And if you're assisting, those are your assisting hours. Don't try to combine the two, just be honest. And that being said, I didn't have as much shadowing hours, but at least with my assisting, I think it helped a lot because I have plus 1,000, so just keep that in mind.
Something that one of our panelists one of our attendees just sent us, thank you, Robbie, is that he shared that you can register for UPenn's Introduction to Dental Medicine course starting today, and it is hosted on Coursera.org. So COURSERA.org, and it is called Introduction to Dental Medicine.
Yes, sorry, I said Introduction to Dentistry, but that is the same course that I did as an undergrad right before I applied.
All right, let's see. So how do pre-med experiences look on your application if you did more pre-med experiences than pre-dent experiences?
I mean, I can sort of speak to that. So I was pre-med until my senior year of college, and both my parents are physicians. So I was like, oh, I'm doing that route, no problem. So a lot of I shadowed doctors. A bunch of my research was tailored towards pre-med. And even after post-grad, I did research in placebo, nocebo pain mechanisms, which is sort of tough to weave into dentistry. But I think, like I said before, any experience is a valuable experience. And as we know now, there's such an integration of oral health and systemic health that it won't be a drawback at all. If anything, it would enhance your application. So I wouldn't worry at all.
Can you list experiences under volunteering and count them as clinic hours, or is it one or the other?
I look at which hours you have less and then just balance it out. I think let's see. I think I've done something like that during the first couple of times I applied, but
yeah, go on.
Sorry, like I had said before, list out all your activities. I think I had about 6 activities per category. So there's academic enrichment, dental experience, volunteer, research, and I tried to just shuffle what I could and wherever I could. And like I had mentioned before, one of the schools said I didn't have enough volunteer hours, but then it was under dental experience. So,
Priscilla, when you listed the experiences, was there a cap on each category on how many that you can put?
So AADSAS doesn't cap it, but when I read that there's a 30-page instruction manual, it says to have about 6 activities per category. So I maxed it out as best as I could. Obviously, research, I only did it under one professor, so I only had one activity. But I think, yeah, I had about 6 activities under each category, and list as much as you could, or you can, sorry. There are pre-dental days out there, sim courses, list that under academic enrichment and things that you don't think would count under activity. These are all activities leading you to dental. So see what you can add and add that.
And then someone asked, how do you join ASDA? So please go to ASDA, asdanet.org. So ASDANET.org.
The cost for a pre-dental membership is $71 right now, and it goes all the way until the end of the year. So you have a full year membership, and it's worth it. It's worth it.
And then someone asked, what classes should you take in undergrad to be prepared for dental school?
That will vary. Yeah, anatomy for sure. But I mean, all the science courses are going to prepare you for dental school regardless. One thing I would specifically recommend is if you look at the AADSA guide, every school has different prerequisites on specific classes that they want to see on your application. And so when I did my application cycle, there were several schools I wanted to apply to, but I knew I wouldn't qualify for because I was looking at my graduation dates and everything. I wouldn't be able to, there was no way I would be able to take those courses. So again, if you know what schools you want to apply to, look on their guide, look on their website, find out what specific classes they're looking for, and be sure you're applying those into your curriculum.
Yeah, just because a class is like recommended, it doesn't mean that it doesn't give you like a booster, because like definitely there's a lot of schools where they list, oh, microbiology is a accessory course that you can take. Like definitely take that course because I mean it's recommended. And if your GPA, your science GPA is not high enough, like you know, there are categories on what falls into the BCP, and definitely like take the classes that fall under like BCP so that it ups your BCP GPA.
Oh, can I also add one thing? So we talked about the gap year, and gap year is also a phenomenal time to take classes that you might need for certain schools. Like I graduated college a semester early, so I still had some prereqs that I needed to take if I wanted to apply to dental school, microbiome being one of them, because I'm from Seattle, so I knew I wanted to go to UW. So gap year is perfect time to take those, even if it's at a community college, but keep in mind that some schools don't take community college credits and others do. So just shop around, but gap year is a great time for that.
Yeah, and definitely ask the school admissions and contact them, because like let's say you went to a 4-year undergrad, but you're taking like just 1 to 2 classes of community college courses. They usually don't mind that, but they do have a cap on it. So definitely contact the school and see what's their maximum, because I don't think they will accept, most schools won't accept more than 30 credits or like 60 credits. So definitely contact them, the specific school that you're interested in, to find out more. Someone asked, do international students get accepted into the program? Let's see. The answer is yes. And even if you are here on a student visa and you have a bachelor's from the USA, the answer is yes. You can also double check on the AADSA website and the school website as well. Do you guys have anything else to add to that? What tips do you have for someone who has a particular school they'd like to attend in mind?
Look for any pre-dental activities that they have. The more face time you get with faculty and administration, the more familiar they are with you. So when they see your application, they go, oh, I know so-and-so. So yeah, so join any social media platforms that they may have, either through ASDA or AADSA, or even the schools, their social media platforms, because stuff is always being announced and activities are always coming up. So try to stay up on top of that.
And then someone asked to become a dental assistant in his or her state, you have to go through a course and take a board to become certified. Would you recommend spending the time and money to do this? Personally, it depends on how soon you want to get into dental school, right? You can definitely not be a dental assistant and do a whole bunch of shadowing and still get in. So I don't think it's absolutely necessary for you to be a dental assistant. It's more so of like, what did you get out of the experience? And definitely there are people who aren't dental assistants and they're like, you know what, I learned a whole bunch, right? So if you can look into doing like just shadowing, or let's say work in a lab, like a dental lab, where you can have hands-on, where you pour models, or like, you know, that's hands-on activities too. So it's really up to you whether you want to actually be registered as a dental assistant and commit that time to doing that. But it's not an absolute, like, even if you did all that, there's like no guarantee that you'll get in that cycle, right? So definitely like weigh out the pros and cons to that. Another question is, if you shadow different dental offices, can you put them as different categories?
I put all my shadowing experiences under dental experience, and then I left volunteer for, yeah, I have this little sheet with me. I put all my volunteer experiences that were like non-dental related and volunteer. But yeah, I think, you know, just see where it fits in. For example, if it can fit into volunteering, put it in there. If you think that you're lacking in the dental experience category, put it in there. As long as you're able to back up why that's dental experience or why that's volunteer experience and you're not getting paid for it, then I think it's okay to put your activities in different categories.
Someone asked the specific question for University of Washington. Any tips for the application and how to stand out compared to other students?
I think one thing that is, I mean, most schools love volunteering, but I think one thing with UW is they love volunteering. So I would definitely try, well, right now, I guess isn't a great time, but when COVID's not as big of an issue, if you see you are deficient in volunteering hours, I would certainly try to get involved in the community. And they also love research. So if you haven't had any research experience, maybe try to get involved in that. I don't know, Portia and Kyler, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think research is huge at UW, and like, I mean, everyone's really involved with that. And so I think that would reflect really well. But
oh, I know one part of the UW app that I'm sure other supplementals have too is there is this section at the end that's optional, but it says like, tell us something, like tell us more about yourself, or if you have any part of the application that you like didn't represent yourself well, speak more to that. And I would definitely not treat that as optional. I would try to, even if your application is glowing, just try to give more about yourself so they can get to know you better. So I say just anything that shows who you are and what makes you unique, just try to represent that in the application. And I think that last question on the supplemental is great for that, even though it says optional, and I would certainly not skip it.
Yeah, I think you should do that. And then, yeah, like Courtney said, even if it's not even like dental or academic related, like something that'll make them remember reading your application and, you know, come back to it and just leave a lasting impression on them would be good.
What exactly goes under quote unquote academic enrichment in the application?
So academic enrichment, I mentioned that U-Penn course. I put that in academic enrichment. I put one of my leadership positions in academic enrichment, ASDA. Any ASDA district meetings that you attend, I put that in academic enrichment because there were a lot of courses during that time, during the conferences, and I learned a lot. I put any pre-dental day. So I'm from Florida. I went to UF's pre-dental day. I went to LECOM's pre-dental day. I put those under academic enrichment. Just whatever you think you're learning from, you can put in academic enrichment.
And then another question is, let's see. Would you recommend applying to a postbac if you foresee your GPA being the weakest part of your application? So what I did when I was comparing like whether I should do a postbac or if I should do a master's program, when the reason why I chose to do a master's program was because my science GPA was not very strong. And so when you do a postbac program, that means that everything that you take, all the classes that you take during that postbac program is going to fall under undergrad. And so it kind of mixes it in. So it depends on how low your GPA is or how much you want your grades to stand out. The reason why I chose to do a master's program was because I would get a graduate GPA, and that would be separate from my undergrad GPA, which would be very beneficial for you if you have a low GPA. And for me, like I was out of school. I graduated from dental hygiene at UOP for, I think like in 2012. So I didn't apply until 2016. And that whole time I was working or taking like 1 or 2 classes, one of the biggest questions that they had was, well, can you handle a full schedule now that you've been working full time and taking classes part-time? And so they want to see once you transition into dental school that you are capable of upholding a full schedule and maintaining your GPA. So therefore, I think it would be really good that you can show your GPA as a separate GPA from your undergrad and show them that, hey, I can handle graduate school work, because certainly, you know, this is professional graduate school. So definitely like look into both types of programs and see how far along your GPA is and how badly you want it to stand out essentially. Does emailing admissions to get your name out there improve your chances of getting in? If yes, what should you email them? And Courtney, can you switch to Portia to host so that she can hop back in? Thank you. All right, so yeah, go ahead.
I'll go and answer this one. It never hurts unless if you email in a very derogatory way, because everything depends on how you're presenting yourself. If you're very aggressive and very condescending in your emails, it can have negative effects on your application. So it's important to keep in mind that anytime you're communicating with a dental school, you need to be very professional and extremely respectful, because they're taking a lot of time out of their schedule to get back to you. So just be aware of that fact.
I like to add to that too, real quick. Also, if you do contact, like, I think a lot of us have like a dental Instagram, you contact us. I think it would be cool to be nice also, because we talk to admissions all the time. And if they ask us about students, we do recommend certain students. That's another way of getting to know the school also, is just talk to the students. So.
But, you know, granted, that doesn't guarantee like admissions for anyone. It's just more so, I think every school wants input, right, on the applications, because a lot of people can look good on paper, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, hey, you know, they're going to be an amazing student, right? And so they might be a different kind of student or whatever it is. And so I think in general, schools don't mind having more information on applicants, but how much it weighs, it might not be that much. So it doesn't hurt to reach out, but just bear in mind that it's not a guarantee to like, oh, I know someone there, so I'll definitely get in. It's not going to be like that. Ultimately, like I would say 95%, 98% of it is going to be what you did that makes you unique as an applicant. Okay, so we are not going to take any more questions, but I want to thank all of our attendees for joining us tonight. So Priscilla actually has something special to share with us today.
So those who are still on, there is a company called iPrep Dental. They're based out of Florida, but they do online courses, and she guarantees a 20 or higher on the DAT. Some of my personal friends have taken her course and they loved it. It also includes a DAT bootcamp subscription with her DAT course. So you can do that online, because I'm sure a lot of you guys tuning in right now are all across the US right now. She also does, if you're from Florida, she also does a live course, I think down in South Florida. But the code to get $200 off on your DAT course It is Roseman 200. I'm going to put that in the chat box right now.
Just did.
Okay, she put it in. Yes, Roseman 200. It expires May 31st. And yeah, it's a great resource. I think it's a 7-week program. She keeps you on track. There's online courses. I believe the cost is like $1,700, something like that, but she guarantees at least a 20. And if you can knock the DAT out your first time and get a great score, I highly recommend that. I had to take the DAT a few times and that was not worth it. So do everything you can to get a high DAT score.
Okay, I lied. I have to take these 2 questions. Okay, one of them only University of Washington can answer. I'm not familiar with this, but does the pre-dental class at University of Washington count as an academic enrichment?
You mean like maybe like for the undergrad? I don't know. I didn't go to Portia might know better, but like I know people like in like applying to med school and dental school for my undergrad, which was like a small college in Oregon. Like I think they would put that under there. So I think
we can ask and get back so you have the information. So if you want to put your email in the chat, we can figure out that information and get back to you.
Send an email to this. I'm about to put the email, but send an email to ASDA District 10 and ASDA.
Perfect.
Check the chat. I'll be checking that email. It's ASDAS. Okay, there's an extra S in there, and then district10@gmail.com. So if you have additional questions, send it there, and I will have people on District 10 ASDA answer questions as well if I don't have the answer to it. And then someone put, would webinars like these considered academic enrichment?
I would put it for sure. Yeah. You're taking time to understand everything that's going on right now, and you're doing this. Like, this is definitely academic enrichment. So
I would say, you know, if you're lacking in that category, it doesn't hurt to put it. I'm sure if they don't count it, they don't count it. You know, that's up to their discretion. But
Okay, so thank you everyone. Good luck on your application. Some closing notes. Make sure you guys, if you guys are interested, sign up for the iPrep Dental, okay? The code is Roseman200. If you have questions, email asdasdistrict10@gmail.com. And then if you missed last week's webinar, it is now on our ASDA District 10 YouTube video. And so therefore, look us up. I don't think our account's too new to actually have an actual direct URL to it. So I think you just have to look up ASDA District 10. So look for us. If you want to sign up for ASDA pre-dental membership, go to asdanet.org, okay? Thank you, everyone. So have a good night.
Good luck. Apply early, guys.
good luck, guys.
All gonna work out.
Yeah.